Well, good evening. This is Larry Hogan. I want to first of all welcome you and thank you for participating in our teletown hall. My plan for tonight is to try to talk with you about some of my concerns for the state of Maryland, talk to you about my solutions for our state problems, and I also want to get an opportunity to talk with as many people as possible and be able to answer your questions and talk about the things that you're interested in talking about. So let me just talk with you about why I'm running for governor. I'm a small businessman. I spent most of my life in the private sector. I was completely fed up with politics as usual in Annapolis and was very concerned about the direction our state was heading. I decided it was time to try to do something about it. I decided to step up and run for governor. I had the opportunity to serve as a cabinet secretary for the previous governor, Bob Ehrlich, and when we turned the state over to the current administration, we had $1 billion cash surplus in the bank. The state was in the best fiscal shape it had been in decades, and here we are 8 years later, and our state is really far off course, heading in the wrong direction. We've increased spending by $10 billion. They've passed 40 consecutive tax hikes that have crushed our economy. They've put a tremendous pressure on struggling Maryland families and small businesses, and it's caused us to lose 8,000 small businesses, 100,000 jobs. Unemployment has doubled. Our state economy is 49th out of 50 states, and that's simply unacceptable. And I believe the people of Maryland deserve better. I decided to run for governor because I have a different set of priorities. I want to put Maryland on a new path. My focus is on jobs, struggling Maryland families, and restoring our economy. And I'm looking forward to talking with you tonight about the things that you're interested in. So the way it's going to work, I'm going to do some talking, and then if you have any questions to ask me on any issues, you just go ahead and press 0, and somebody will talk with you and put you right through, and we'll start answering questions right away. So if you've got questions, go ahead and press 0. This campaign for governor is really getting down to the wire here. We've got just 40-some days before this election takes place, and surprisingly, most people didn't expect it to be much of a race. My opponent, Anthony Brown, thought that he was going to have a coronation and didn't expect much of a challenge, but the latest polls show that this race is a single-digit race within the margin of error, and we've got a real chance to bring about a real change here in Maryland this November. So I'm looking forward to talking with you. I think we've got our first question coming in. Let's go ahead.
What do you think about this rain tax?
Well, Tom, I'm glad you asked that question. It's one of the things that I've been focused on in this campaign. My organization, Change Maryland, which I founded 3.5 years ago, has been the leading voice of opposition to the failed economic policies of O'Malley Brown. We actually, I believe, are the first ones to coin the term rain tax. We've been leading the fight against it, and we've got tens of thousands of people engaged and involved in this issue. We're the only state in the nation that taxes the rain, and it's one of the first things that I'm going to work on, and that's repealing this rain tax.
Have you ever heard such a stupid thing in your whole
life?
Well,
you know what, Tom? It's really something that I hear almost every day. People are very frustrated. There were 40 consecutive tax hikes that have really crushed struggling families, and this wasn't even the biggest one. It doesn't take the most money out of anybody's pockets, but it is the one that's got them the most frustrated. It's kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, and we got people very upset about it. So thank you very much for the call, Tom. I'm going to do everything I can to work to repeal the rain tax.
All righty, thank you.
Now we've got Barbara from Severna Park. Barbara?
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
So what's your question tonight?
Well, my take is I'm really tired of the strange situation Maryland is with high taxation for everyone. We are retired people. We'd like to stay here, but very honestly, it doesn't benefit us to stay in the state of Maryland. We should leave as quickly as possible. And my question to you is, what can you do for retired people who would like to stay here? I mean, what is your plan?
Well, Barbara, that's an excellent question. It's one of the things that I've been focused on for quite some time. My group, Change Maryland, we did the taxpayer exodus study that proved that Maryland had the largest mass exodus of taxpayers fleeing our state of any state in the Mid-Atlantic region, and one of the worst in the nation. And we've lost 31,000 Marylanders who have voted with their feet and headed for the exits. And these folks have taken with them $1.7 billion a year out of our economy. Every day I talk to people like you. Every day I hear somebody say, you know, I love the state of Maryland. I've been here my whole life. I don't want to leave my kids and grandkids, but I simply can't afford to stay here on a fixed income. So what we're planning to do is we've got a detailed plan to cut spending. We've identified $2 billion in waste and fraud in state government. We're going to roll back that wasteful spending, and then we're going to roll back as many of these 40 consecutive O'Malley Brown tax hikes as we possibly can. And we're going to especially focus in on the people that are retired. I said that immediately I'm going to, in January, submit legislation that will start to help some of our retired folks, retired veterans and police officers, firefighters, first responders. We're going to eliminate state income tax on their pensions. And then as soon as we can get the economy under control and get our structural deficit fixed, get our economy back on track, my goal is to completely eliminate state income tax for all seniors in their retirement and their pensions. So we're going to try to work to do that. Thank you very much for your call, Barbara. So I think we've got another question coming in. You have a question?
No, this
Hello?
is Vernon French again. I just listen to other people calling in.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. You're just listening to people call in? Okay, we'll go to the next question. Thank you very much.
Hi, Mr. Hogan. My name is Andy Higginbotham. I am a longtime Maryland resident. My family's been here forever, and I own an IT consulting business in Maryland. For the last 10 years, I employ 17 people, and the bulk of my new work is coming out of Virginia. I was wondering how you could help me keep my business in Maryland due to the high taxes and not move it to Virginia.
Well, Andy, thank you for that question. That's been a focal point of my entire campaign. I'm a small businessman as well. I've spent most of my life in the private sector. My group, Change Maryland, we've been focused on how to make Maryland more competitive. You know, we've lost 10 of our 13 Fortune 500 companies out of the state. That's tragic, but more importantly, we've lost 8,000 small businesses, and that's the backbone of our economy. It's where 80% of the jobs come from. And I know you've been struggling. I know it's difficult, and I know that's why so many people have been leaving. But there's three basic reasons. First of all, I think we've got a real anti-business attitude here in Maryland. And the current administration, you know, we rank, CEO Magazine ranked us 41st out of 50 states in business friendliness. That's number one. That would change on day one with me as governor, because Maryland would be open for business. I'd be focused on doing everything I possibly could to help businesses grow and hire more people and continue to stay in Maryland. Number two, we've got a really unpredictable and irregular, constantly changing regulatory environment. And it makes it very difficult for businesses. And the tax policy, you know, we're the 5th highest tax state in the nation, and it's crushing not only struggling families, but also small businesses like yours. And that's why we're focused on all those things. And I'll tell you what, if I'm elected governor, if anything crosses my desk that doesn't make it easier for families and small businesses to stay in Maryland, I'll veto it. It's just that simple. But thank you for your call, Andy.
Can I ask you one more question, please, sir?
Yeah, sure. You can ask one more.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I appreciate your time. Being a small business person, I do the best I can for my employees, and under Obamacare, my employees are allowed to take their health insurance as a pre-tax deduction. However, I am not, as the business owner, allowed to take that as a pre-tax deduction. What can you do to help me?
Well, that's something you should probably address with your accountant, but, you know, we're going to try to address all the issues that people like you are having with your small businesses, and I really appreciate you calling in, Andy, so thanks for calling.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate all you're doing.
Sure. Now, if anybody else is listening out there, please press 0 if you have any questions at all. We'd love to take more questions, and if you just press 0, you can come right in. Okay, we've got a new question. Hello? We got a question here from,
Yes.
hello? Hello?
Yes. My name is
Hi.
Fritz, and I'm a physician, a retired physician, and I'm in favor of Affordable Care Act.
Mm-hmm.
You know that it is working, and today's New York Times had a long article about how it has transformed the life of a small community in Texas, and showing how the Affordable Care Act is helping people. Are you going to do the best you can to promote the Affordable Care Act and help President Obama to continue to help people getting affordable health care?
Well, it's an excellent question. Here's the real problem here in Maryland. It doesn't matter whether you're a supporter or an opponent of Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act. You'd have to admit that Maryland has had the worst implementation of any state in the nation. And the person that I'm running against, Lieutenant Governor Anthony Brown, was in charge of the failed health care rollout here in Maryland. That's been an unmitigated disaster. And we've wasted $250 million on a website that doesn't work. So thank you very much for the call.
But it
Next caller. Let's see who else we got. Hello?
Yes, I'm concerned about the unmitigated lies that your opponent has levied against you in the press and on TV. And I wonder if there's any way you can counter those, because obviously to audience appeal, particularly in the Baltimore area, and those that are getting all the freebies. And I'd love to see you counter that, because we in the western part of the state just don't believe any of them.
Well, thank you, Joe. I really appreciate you saying that, and I'm hoping that nobody's believing them, because my opponent has really run a desperate and despicable campaign. Frankly, it's the most dishonest campaign I've ever seen, and it's really beneath anybody that would be running for the state's highest office. But he's run 5 consecutive attack television commercials that are just 100% completely false and filled with absolute lies. And we held a press conference last week going through every detail of them. And I believe it's because he's desperate and he's unwilling and unable to talk about the real issues that people are concerned about, like we're talking about tonight on this teleconference. And he's unable to defend his 8-year record of failure. So we're going to do everything we can to refute these charges. We've been staying focused on the economic issues that most Marylanders are concerned about, and he's trying to distract everyone away from those important issues. And we're going to fight back as strongly as we can. So thank you very much for your call.
You're welcome.
Hello? Hello?
Hi, Larry. It's Charmaine. I live
Hi,
in
Charmaine.
Ocean City, Maryland.
I love Ocean City.
Oh, do you? Well, I live here, and I own 2 properties here that I rent out, in the summertime.
I've got a condo in Ocean City, too.
Do you? Mine are at the Golden Sands.
Yeah.
I've always supported Jim Mathias and everything about him, but I don't think he's doing what's good for Ocean City. And I'm supporting Mike McDermott, and I support you.
Mike's a good guy.
And yes. And I just don't understand all these taxes and the taxes that are chasing all the businesses out of the state. And as long as the businesses are leaving the state, our taxes are going to keep going up.
Well, Charmaine, you're absolutely right, and it's been a focal point of our campaign. We've been taxing the small businesses and the taxpayers out of the state. So as I said earlier, we've lost 8,000 small businesses. We've lost 100,000 jobs as a result, and we can't keep moving Maryland backwards. We've got to go in a different direction, and one of my primary focuses is relieving the tax burden on small businesses and struggling families. So thank you very much for calling in. We're going to do everything we can to help small businesses.
Well, thank you so much.
Who's next? We got a call coming in.
Hi there,
Hello?
Gary. Yes, hi.
Yeah. Hi, Alice.
My name's Alice, and I'm from Centerville, Maryland, on the Eastern Shore. And I'm calling about your education thoughts on pre-K. You doing it? Are you going to do away with it?
No, absolutely not. I'm a big supporter of pre-K. That's one of the lies that my opponent's been spreading on television. And one of his ads says that.
Why is he doing that to you?
He's doing it because he's desperate and he's afraid to talk about the real issues, and so he's just telling outrageous lies about me. But I'm a supporter of pre-K. It's working very well. We're providing pre-K to a number of kids who it's helping them get a head start. I wouldn't take one penny out of the pre-K program. There is a difference of opinion, though, because he's talking about immediately bringing in universal pre-K for everybody, not just the folks who couldn't afford it. And because our economy is in such bad shape, and he's proposed $7 billion in new spending, we do have a disagreement on when we can implement it, and we've got to make sure that we can pay for it without burdening the taxpayers any further.
Okay, I understand that. Now, how about helping the children that are going to college?
Mm-hmm.
What can you do about that?
Well, we've been fighting to try to keep college education affordable. It's another one of the false charges by my opponent. He was trying to make the argument that I was for increased tuitions, which is an absolute lie. I've never supported one penny in tuition increases in my entire life, and in fact, we've been leading the fight against the O'Malley-Brown increases in tuition for the past 5 years. So keeping colleges affordable is something that really that we would focus on. So thank you, Alice.
Okay.
I appreciate the call.
Thank you.
We're waiting for another call. So, Mike, are you joining us now?
Yes, I am.
Great. What's your question?
How you doing, sir? My name is Mike. I live up here in Elkin, Maryland, Cecil County. I work with law enforcement, and I'm noticing that there's like this large epidemic with drug overdoses and methadone clinics and stuff like that. As far as with the drug overdoses, is there anything that your administration will be doing to help law enforcement to work on reducing the amount of methadone users to basically it's basically a treatment, but to get weaned off of it, like that they're only allowed on a specific time, because I see a lot of money being dumped into overdoses and helping somebody that that's on drugs that continuously keeps on buying and overdosing itself.
Hey, Mike, this is an issue that I've been hearing about I've been traveling all across the state, and I've been to all 23 counties in Baltimore City a number of times. I've talked with law enforcement officers and corrections officials and drug treatment experts and emergency medical folks and first responders, and heroin has been taking over our state, not just in the urban areas, but in suburban and rural communities as well, and it's becoming a major problem. I talk with local sheriffs and police departments who say most of the crimes being committed there are related to it. You talk to the folks in the corrections facilities and the jails, and they say most of their folks in the jail are somehow related to heroin and gangs. And so there's both there's the crime prevention part of it. We've got to crack down and get tough and stop this influx and fight back against these gangs. But we also need to work to try to improve drug addiction counseling here in the state to stop all this stuff from happening. So we're going to hit it from both ends, and we appreciate the call, Mike. Thanks a lot. We got another call coming in. Jake,
Hi.
Are you with us?
Yes.
Hello?
Hi, this is Jake Geller from Ellicott City, Maryland. I was wondering what you would want. I was wondering what you want to do as governor.
Well, my first priorities are jobs, middle-class families, struggling families, and restoring our economy. So what I want to do is rein in wasteful spending and try to reduce taxes that have been crushing middle-class families. Those are the first things that I'm going to focus on. I'm going to try to turn our economy around so we can put more people back to work and help struggling businesses and families. That's what we're going to focus on. So thanks, Jake.
Thanks.
Okay, now we have a call coming in from Paul.
Yeah, hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Hey, you got my vote 100%. Anthony
thank you very much.
Anthony Brown ain't nothing. What I was talking about a little while ago, it seems like there's no more middle class. I mean, the majority of the people, I live on Kent Island, and we're working from paycheck to paycheck. You know?
Well, Paul, I understand exactly what you're going through, and I talk to people almost every day that are in the exact same position, and you're right. I mean, people don't feel like they're in the middle class anymore, and that's why I used to talk more about middle-class families, and now I talk about struggling families because people are dropping out of the middle class, and many people are going paycheck to paycheck, and people are talking to me about, you know, hey, I'm working twice as hard and keeping half as much, and I'm struggling to pay the bills and keep a roof over my head and feed my family. So specifically, you know, what we're going to talk about, most of these 40 consecutive tax hikes are regressive taxes that hit people at the lower end of the income scale the hardest and hit struggling families and individuals the most. So we're going to get this spending under control, Paul, and we're going to try to get rid of as many of these taxes that are hitting you and make it easier. We're also going to try to create some more jobs and some more opportunities out there, so maybe you can move up the ladder and make even more money. So thanks a lot for calling in, Paul.
Hey, listen,
Who's next? We got another call here. Teresa?
Yes. I was just talking about what are we going to be doing? What are you planning on doing to help with the budget? Because my husband is a service disabled veteran. My father was Air Force. My son was Army. My son-in-law is in the Navy, and my brother was a Marine. And I feel like that not focusing on what's really important, like balancing the budget so that we don't have these taxes and we don't have to do all these other things to help keep us afloat, hurts being able to help families like us that have made sacrifices and done the things that most people can't even imagine the sacrifices that were made. And not even having them there to help, it's frustrating, and it's very frustrating for me.
Well, first of all, thank you. Yeah, well, thank you very much for your family's sacrifices. First of all, I do have tremendous respect for you, and I want to thank you for that. And it's something, you know, I'm very concerned about veterans and the people that are serving in the military, and it's something, you know, we've talked about reducing the tax burden on veterans. That's one of our proposals. But as far as balancing the state budget, you know, this current administration has increased spending by $10 billion. It went up 36%, which is, you know, the National Governors Association. The National Governors Association said that we increased spending at a rate faster than 46 other states. That only 3 states in the country raised spending the way we did. And then in order to we have a balanced budget requirement here in Maryland, and so in order to pay for all that new spending, they pushed 40 taxes in a row, and it still wasn't enough. So they started robbing trust funds and taking money out of the teachers' pension funds and the environmental trust fund and the transportation trust fund. It's basically we have a spending problem in Annapolis. We don't have a revenue problem. So we're going to focus on reducing spending, getting that budget under control, and then cutting taxes. So, Teresa, thank you very much for your family service, and thanks for your concern about the state budget, too.
Thank you.
So we got another call coming in from Ed?
Yes. Yes, taxes seem to be on everybody's mind.
Yeah.
And this present administration has been tax crazy. I wonder what do you think your chances are to roll back some of these crazy taxes, like the rain tax?
Yeah.
And I understand there was even a proposal to tax each mile driven from an automobile. That is a crazy.
Yeah, the vehicle mileage tax is the latest one they're talking about after 40 other ones have already been passed, and it is one of the craziest ones. But yeah, so it's the hardest part of the deal here because, I mean, getting elected in Maryland as a Republican is going to be difficult, but it seems like we've got that one pretty much close to happening. You know, we're in a statistical tie in this race for governor. That's a hard part, but then getting spending under control we can do. You know, because the governor in Maryland sets the budget, and the legislature can't add one penny to it. So I can get spending under control. We can get a better attitude in the executive branch with cabinet secretaries that are going to be caring about struggling families and small businesses and looking to create more opportunities and jobs. But the hardest part is rolling back the taxes because we have to convince the legislature to go along with that, and I can't do that on my own. So we're going to have to convince the Democrats in both houses of the legislature that it's important. And I believe that in November, when I'm elected, we have no checks and balances in Annapolis. So even though 71% of all the people in Maryland thinks taxes are too high, they continue to push taxes in every session that they had. And so I believe when I'm elected, it's going to send a clear message to those politicians in Annapolis that maybe they can't keep increasing spending by 36%, and they can't raise 40 taxes in a row. And we're going to work across the aisle. I've talked about, I'm a Republican, but these aren't Republican problems or Democrat problems. This is more important. I mean, this is really a fight for Maryland's future, and it's going to take us sitting down at a table together, reaching across the aisle, and coming up with real bipartisan solutions to these problems, and that's the way I'm going to govern. So thank you very much, Ed. I appreciate you calling in. Hello? Janice,
Hi.
Are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Hi.
I just want to ask you a really quick question. You're obviously doing this because you want people to know what you believe in, and hopefully they will agree with you and vote for you, right? So I want to know, are you for or against Dominion down here in Calvert County coming in? I mean, granted, the plant was already there, but they're coming in and they're making all these additional changes, and they're promising us that they're not going, the residents of Calvert County, that they're not going to be doing any fracking, they're not going to be doing any of this, they're not going to be doing any of that, when that's exactly what they had done to other towns, and then they ended up doing it anyway. I understand why they did it, because the, holy dollar, if somebody's waving big money in front of your face, why would you not do it? And that's exactly what's going to eventually happen here, too. We aren't going to benefit anything from them, except they are going to go ahead and give the county $40 million. $40 million sounds great, but it's not going to help me if we can't drink our water and we can't sell our homes, and we end up like other towns that this has happened to. Matter of fact, one of them was in Texas, and those people were getting extremely ill. They had to ship in water. The company that was doing that actually shipped in trucks and trucks of water for the families that decided to still stay and did not abandon their homes. The other people abandoned their homes because they couldn't sell them because nobody would buy in a town where their cattle was dying. This is what's happening down here in Calvert County, and nobody seems to care because we're at the tip of Maryland, the bottom tip, and it's like we're the ugly stepchild. Nobody pays any attention to us down here. And matter of fact, the people who are against this, that are trying to let the residents know what's truly going on, they had a forum with Governor O'Malley there, and he fell asleep. They actually have him filmed falling asleep during the meeting when he was supposed to be listening to the opponent's side. Wow. And instead of listening to us, he slept, and then afterwards he informed everyone that it was really no point, for us not to be offended because decisions were already made. He didn't even really need to come to the meeting. We should have been grateful. So where do you stand? Are you in
Janice, first of all, thank you for your concern. I don't think that anybody should have ignored your concerns, and having the governor fall asleep in the meeting and not listening to you is something I can promise you would never happen in my administration. I would sit down with all the people on both sides of an issue and give everybody a seat at the table and pay attention to their concerns. This is one issue where one of the few issues I've actually agreed with this administration on, and they've already made the decision to move forward with Cove Point. I want to make sure that it's done in an environmentally sensitive way, but I'm also concerned about the jobs. Yes, I am. So thank you for your call. Who's next? We have a call coming in from Adam.
Hey, Larry.
Adam?
This is Adam Bass. Yeah, hi, Larry. How are you?
How are you?
Good. I reside in Bel Air, Maryland, and I have a quick question. First, I'd like to say I think you're the first candidate on the conservative side that actually has a shot of beating what essentially is the donkey that they run on that side. So I am very excited, actually. But I'd like to ask a question because I saw your commercials, and I want to know maybe a specific example of how you plan on bringing corporations back to Maryland, because I do think that is a huge issue in this state.
Yeah.
So I'd like to hear an example exactly how the tax plan that you have in place will entice corporations to come back into this state.
Well, I appreciate the call and everything that you just said. And as I mentioned earlier, I started this group, Change Maryland, about 3.5 years ago. I am a small businessman, and what my job is, what my career has been about for 30 years, is bringing hundreds of companies and thousands of jobs into the state. So I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. But with Change Maryland, we hosted several years in a row a business summit on improving Maryland's economic competitiveness, and I brought together economists and think tanks and business leaders from all over the state to address this very question of yours about what can we do to, first of all, keep the businesses in the state that are here, and then attract new businesses to come back to the state. Enticing ones that already left to come back may be even tougher, but the overall issue is just our business unfriendliness, our regulatory policy, and our tax policy, and it's something that is going to be a primary focus of my administration. Maryland's going to be open for business. Every decision I make is going to be, I'm going to look at, is this going to help us continue to keep businesses and jobs in Maryland, help them grow and create more jobs and more opportunities, and that's the way I'll govern. Every person I appoint to a cabinet position is going to have the same attitude, and they're going to look at how can we help people grow their business. So we're going to work like heck to make Maryland open for business again. So, Adam, thanks a lot. Appreciate you calling. We have another question coming in from Michelle.
Hi. My question is how you intend, if possible, to attract young Republican voters in the upcoming election. The National Republican Committee doesn't seem to understand whether they're using technology or whatever to be able to attract these young voters. I happen to have 4 20-year-olds in my house between 21 and 29, and they're disengaged other than watching Fox News on television. While the Democrats, of course, have somehow figured out, I'm not sure exactly how, maybe it's giving away free phones or whatever and texting, I don't know. But do you have a plan that directly speaks to them?
Well, yeah, thank you. I'm a firm believer that young people need to be involved in the political process, and I'm a guy who started very early in politics. My father actually was a former member of Congress and was elected when I was 10 years old, so I got started earlier than most kids. But I was involved in the College Republicans, and then I was the president of the Young Republicans, and I actually chaired Youth for Reagan, so it was a long time ago. But I was a young person that got involved, and our campaign has made a special effort to try to involve more people, get young people involved in our campaign. We had about a dozen interns with us all summer that did a terrific job and got very involved in the process. And on social media, we have done a terrific job. We've got 113,000 people engaged and involved on our Facebook page. In the past 7 days, 760,000 people have seen our posts on Facebook. And so we've got young people everywhere, not only paying attention, but really excited and involved and enthused about our effort. And I think it's one of the reasons why we're doing so well in this campaign. So, so thank you very much for that suggestion. I think it's very important for young people to get involved, and we're doing everything we possibly can to engage them.
Well,
thank you.
Sure
we're sort of cutting people off sometimes. Okay, Nancy, you got a question? Nancy
do,
from
Larry.
Dundalk. Okay.
That's correct. Larry, my question is, as everyone knows in the state, this is a very, very heavily Democratic populated state. Due to a lot of entitlements that have been given out over the years to the Democratic party. What do you feel, or how do you feel you're going to be able to win over the majority of the Democrats in this state, through this election?
Right. Well, it's a great question. Our campaign has really been focused on it. Of course, we can't win elections here in Maryland by just getting Republican votes, and I founded and built the largest nonpartisan grassroots citizen organization in state history. We've got 113,000 people involved in our group, Change Maryland, and nearly half of them are Democrats and independents. And my whole campaign has been focused on reaching out to both Democrats and independents, and our message is really about fixing the economy and putting people back to work and cutting spending and cutting taxes is what people regardless of their party affiliation, people really want to go in a different direction this year. So we have Democrats for Hogan bumper stickers that are flying off the shelves every day. Everywhere I go, every single day, I meet someone who says, I'm a lifelong Democrat, but I'm voting for you in November. Some of them say, I've never voted for a Republican in my life, but I just can't take it anymore, and we need a change in Annapolis. So we are reaching out, and we're doing very, very well. The polls show us in a dead heat tied for this race for governor, and it's because we have a ton of support from Democrats and independents. So, Nancy, thank you very much for calling in. Now, if anybody else has any other questions, please press 0 if you want to ask us a question, and we'd be happy to get to it as soon as we can. Thank you. Who's next? We got Sherry?
Shirley Carr.
Shirley? Okay. How are you, Shirley?
Shirley. Okay, Mr. Hogan. I understand that this is a dead heat between you and Lieutenant Governor.
Yes, it sure is.
I hope so. I hope so. Now, your dad used to be our congressman.
Yeah. What, did you used to live in Prince George's County?
When we were in Prince George's County, and I also know your Uncle Bill.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I mean,
well, hey,
we go way back. But
wow, well, it's great to talk with you. I'll have to tell my dad and my uncle that you said hi. But yeah, the polls look really good. There have been 5 or 6 recent polls. All of them have us.
I really hope so. Now
they all have us. Okay. Well, they have us down to low single digits, and the most recent ones show it to be within the margin of error. So it really is important that we get every single person out to vote, because it's going to be a close election. And it's critical that we turn out every Republican voter and every other voter that wants to cross over and help us win this election and turn the state around. So thank you very much.
You're amazing.
Okay, thanks. All right, thank you. Okay, what's next? We have somebody coming in here. Chris?
Yes. Hi, Larry. Thank you for taking my call. My question is this. How close are you at this point with the city and the Prince George's County vote? Because it's always the city and Prince George's County that carry the Democrats all the way. So what are you doing in the city, and what are you doing in Prince George's County to get the word out to people who would just normally vote Democrat because that's what they always do?
Well, that's a great question, Chris, and let me just say that we're doing very well in almost every single county in the state, and we're ahead in, I believe, 19 of the 23 counties. But the tough ones are Baltimore City, Prince George's County, and to a lesser degree, Montgomery County. And I've been spending a ton of time in those communities. I'm fighting for every vote everywhere, and we're not gonna leave anybody unchallenged. And I spoke last week to Bowie State University in Prince George's County, a predominantly African American audience, and got a standing ovation, and had people coming up to me afterwards saying that we had won them over, that they felt they couldn't continue voting the same way and heading in the same direction. And I spent time in inner city Baltimore. We went to neighborhoods where people don't usually go, especially Republicans, and we talked to folks and walked some neighborhoods, and I was hearing some of the same concerns that I hear in other places in the state. People were saying to me they're really concerned about the economy, about jobs, and they were also saying, what are you going to do about rolling back some of these taxes, because we're working hard and we can't afford to pay the bills. So, it's difficult to win those counties, but if we just don't lose as badly, if we can make it more competitive and we win everywhere else, then we can win the election, and that's why the polls are so close. So,
I'm
so
really
Chris,
happy for you. I'm pulling for you, and you got my vote. And
thank you.
All the best.
I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
All right. Continued success. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Okay, we got a call coming in from Jim.
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call, and good luck in the race. I look forward to voting for you this November.
I appreciate that, Jim.
Make a fine state. My question is, with the implementation of Common Core in the past couple of years, the landscape of education has drastically changed for our teachers and students to the point of what direction do you see Maryland heading in based on the knowledge of leading states like New York wanting to drop Common Core?
Yeah, well, it's an excellent question, and it's one that comes up a lot. And you know, I'm not opposed to having standards in education, but this Common Core rollout has been somewhat of a disaster here in Maryland. And quite frankly, I talk to people all across the state, from parents, students, and teachers, who are just concerned that we're rolling it out and it hasn't been given enough thought, that they're not ready for the implementation. We had the lowest test scores, I think, on record this year because people were so confused. The teachers don't know how to teach it. The kids don't understand it. I was meeting with a guy last week that was telling me that he just retired as a 5th grade teacher, and he happens to have a 5th grader at home, and he said, he couldn't help his son with the homework, his math homework. He was a math teacher because the way he was trying to tell him to answer the question, they weren't able to do with this thing. So Common Core is it's got tremendous problems. Even the teachers union called it a train wreck and a disaster. So there's kind of agreement on all sides of the issue that we're not ready. So I would hit the pause button and stop the further implementation at this point. So thank you very much, Jim. Appreciate the call. We have a call coming in from Maria.
Yes. Good afternoon. Good evening. I have a question about the FBI headquarters coming to Maryland possibly. Do you support that, or what are your thoughts on that? And just a comment about heeding the tax cutting and the New Jersey and the Kansas model, that they have cut taxes so much that they have lowered bond ratings and they don't have enough money to take care of their business.
Mm-hmm. Well, so on the FBI first part of the question, absolutely, I support the relocation of the FBI headquarters to Maryland. It would be a tremendous shot in the arm for us. It'll provide a lot of jobs and revenue, and both in the construction and in the permanent employees that'll be working there. Hopefully, some of those folks, a lot of them live in Virginia. Maybe we can even get some to move over here to Maryland. Absolutely, we would do everything we could possibly do on an economic development basis to make sure that we get the FBI headquarters in Maryland. I'm very much focused on trying to get private sector jobs and helping to bring some businesses into Maryland as well. But having another a federal facility would be a real boost for us, and I think we are going to get it here, by the way. It's going to be very important to our state. So thank you very much, Maria. I appreciate you calling in.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're waiting for a call coming in from Jim.
Hey, Larry, this is Jimmy Morris from PG County.
Hey, I'm a former Prince Georgian myself. I live in Anne Arundel County now, but I grew up and spent most of my life in Prince George's County.
Okay, I've spent all my life in PG County. I believe in PG County.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm a union sheet metal worker, and I'm curious of what you're going to do for the union to make it strong. Union is basically a Democratic party.
Mm-hmm.
I am a Republican.
Well,
but
yeah, good.
Where is
good
the
for
work
you
coming
standing
back
up.
into us?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, it's really what I've been talking about. I mean, unions. Your guys are getting hurt when we don't have enough business in Maryland. We don't have enough construction going on. I want to bring back, more opportunities and more jobs for union workers and for other workers. I mean, we've got people that are out of work. We've lost 100,000 jobs, and people are struggling. So, your union can't do well if you don't also have businesses that are growing and things that are getting built and people that are, being productive. And when we got people fleeing the state, it's causing real problems. We've lost 26% of our manufacturing base here in Maryland, 26,000 manufacturing jobs, and so that's hurting people. Not all union workers, but it's certainly hurting a lot of them, and it's hurting some other folks as well. So I think getting our economy on track is going to help everybody, Jim. And I appreciate the call, and I know you're a hard-working guy, and we're going to try to make the economy better for you, and also cut taxes. And some unions have taken positions and endorsed the Democrats usually, but I can tell you, as I go around the state, an overwhelming majority of the actual members of the unions are coming out and supporting me. We're up in Dundalk and Essex and the east side of Baltimore, where there's a lot of union workers and a lot of Democrats. 2.5 to 1 Democrat district, and mostly union workers and blue collar workers and hard working people. and we're winning that area by 40% right now in the polls. So I talk to people every day that say, my union told me to vote for the Democrat, but I'm voting for you. So hopefully we can find some more people like that, Jim. So thanks a lot for the call. I appreciate it. Okay, next we got a call coming in from Paul in Bel Air.
Yes, sir. It's Carl from Bel Air.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carl. Nice to see you. Nice to hear you.
My call. As a retiree of State Highway Administration, every governor since way back has taken money out of the transportation fund. And when that happens, they say there's not enough money to fix the roads and bridges, and they got to raise the cost of gasoline. When you become governor, will you see that you will not tap into that fund and leave the money what it's for?
Absolutely, Paul. As a matter of fact, I've been kind of the leading voice of opposition to the people tapping into the Transportation Trust Fund and other trust funds, and it's quite frankly, it's disgraceful. So just in this, let's just take this most recent administration, the one that is looking for a third term here with Anthony Brown. They siphoned $1 billion out of the Transportation Trust Fund, and then said, we have crumbling roads and bridges and the worst traffic congestion in the nation, and we have to raise the gas tax. But if they hadn't drained the $1 billion out of there, we could have really done some transportation improvements. So I'm going to fight to make sure we put a real lockbox with a lock they can't pick. And I would pledge to not take any money out of the trust fund. I've talked about we're going to, as quickly as possible, replenish all the monies taken out of the trust fund, and also restore highway user revenues, which is a portion of the trust fund that goes to local governments to fix their roads, which was cut by 96% by this administration. So it's not just the trust fund for transportation, by the way, that's been drained. This administration has also taken $1.3 billion out of the environmental trust funds, and they've been robbing pension funds and everything else. Basically, they can't stop spending, and even though they've raised taxes 40 times, they're just grabbing money wherever they can find it. So it's a huge problem, and we're going to work like heck to make sure that not only I can give you my word that we're not going to tap into these trust funds, and we're going to replenish them. But I also want to pass some tough legislation so that nobody else can do it in the future. So thanks a lot, Paul. Appreciate you calling in. Now we have a call coming in from Sean.
Yes, hi. I wanted to ask you two questions. One is, how do you plan to reduce wasteful spending across the state? And the other is, how will you help make sure our kids are competitive in our global economy?
Well, wow, two good questions. Well, first of all, on the wasteful spending, I'm the only one that's come up with a real detailed plan on cutting wasteful spending, and it's really not that complicated. You know, sometimes people say that, well, what are you going to eliminate? Does that mean you're going to eliminate education, or you're going to cut programs to people that really need them, or you're going to lop off an entire department? And that's not really what it's about. It's about running the government more efficiently and more cost effectively. There have been 300 audits that have been done by the federal government and by the Department of Legislative Services that have already identified, very specifically in nearly every single agency and department of state government, nearly $2 billion worth of waste and fraud. And they've already made recommendations that these things be eliminated and taken care of. And those recommendations were completely ignored by the O'Malley-Brown administration. So we're going to start with taking those actions and acting on those recommendations and implementing those to get rid of the $2 billion, which is about 5% of the state budget right away. And then we've called for independent outside agencies of every single agency and department of state government, so we can really cut spending in a surgical way. And that way we're not wasting taxpayers' money anymore. We can send some of it back to the taxpayers, but we can also spend it on the people that really need it in the programs that are really important, like education. And your second part of your question was preparing our kids in the global economy, and and putting more money into education and trying to push as much money down to the local school systems and letting parents, teachers, and students be more involved in the decision-making processes. We've got some great schools in Maryland, but we've also got some really underperforming schools. We got some kids that are not getting the opportunity of a great education, and I want to focus on that as well. So thank you very much for your call, Sean. Appreciate it. Okay, we're waiting for a call from Robin.
Yes, I just want to say that you've got great ideas, but the problem is the average person out there hears all the lies that we're told. You've got to counter them. And you can counter them with follow up on the why he's lying, because of what he and O'Malley have done to the state, raiding the transportation fund, the unaffordable Obamacare Act. Everything that they've done to destroy the state. That's why he has to tell lies, because he has nothing to run on.
Wow, Robin,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. You were getting passionate. I liked it. Well, I appreciate that.
But I used to be involved. I used to be a Democrat years ago, so I know how they are. But you've got to counter them, because that's what the people hear, and it's got to be forceful. And I know there's not a lot of time in a commercial to do it, but you can do it by saying, this is why he has to lie, because he has nothing else.
Right.
By the way, along with your bumper sticker, I have a Bring Back Ehrlich bumper sticker on.
Well, those go together pretty well. I appreciate that. Well, first of all, thank you for being so passionate, Robin, and I appreciate the fact that you aren't believing the lies and that you'd like to see us fight back on them. You know, I had a press conference last week, and we went through every single one of his false commercials, and we went point by point through all of them. They're absolutely disgraceful. Every single word of them is an absolute lie, and you can't be much stronger than that. But we're going to counter them, and the problem is that he spent $14 million of special interest money, and he's using it to blatantly lie about me and slander me. And it's difficult to compete. You know, we're a grassroots campaign. We're going to be outspent in the race. We're trying to compete as best we can, and we do have television commercials on the air, but we're getting drowned out with the lies. And unfortunately, sometimes if you repeat a lie enough times, then some people start to believe it. But
they do.
The polls show so far.
You're not answering them, so you have to.
Well, yeah, it's basically a money issue. But they've spent over the past 5 weeks $2.5 million lying about me, and yet the polls still show us tied. So some people are listening to them, and they're saying, "I hate this kind of politics." And Anthony Brown's campaign represents everything that's wrong with politics, and it's typical politics as usual, although it's actually worse than what we've ever seen. So we're going to try to fight back as best we can, Robin, and please keep telling all your friends. So
I'm praying.
Thank you very much. All right, thank you very much, Robin.
Sure.
All right, well, I think my time is almost up here, so I'm going to be able to answer one final question, and then I'm going to have to conclude tonight's event. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening in tonight. I really do appreciate it, and I thank you for calling in. If you got any other questions, please contact our headquarters or go to our website at HoganForGovernor.com. Check us out on Facebook. It's Facebook Change Maryland. And we appreciate you calling in tonight. So I got time for one more question, then we're going to wrap it up. So we're going to go to Art. Art
Hi,
Johnson.
How are you?
Yes.
How are you tonight?
I'm doing great.
Hey, man. Glad to hear from you. Hey, listen, Larry, I was just calling because the only thing I'm concerned about is what you can do to combat, the redistributionist mentality. It's just so entrenched in the state, especially in the central part of the state towards Baltimore down to PG, the areas. I mean, we need to try to stick to the core principles of the self-reliant, can-do attitude. So, what can you do to put more emphasis on that?
Well, that's what we've been focused on, is just focusing on self-reliance and about providing opportunities for everybody and creating more jobs and letting people, I want Maryland to be a place people can be proud of, where they can afford to raise a family or grow a small business, and I want people to be successful. And look, let's face it, we're not going to be able to change Maryland from a blue state to a red state. we can try to bring some balance here, and that's what we're trying to do. And we can work together to try to turn the state around instead of continuing to roll things backwards. And that's what we're focused on. So thank you very much, Art. I appreciate the call. All right. Well, thank you very much for calling in. I hope everybody enjoyed the conference call. I sure did. It was some great questions, and I enjoyed the dialogue. So thank you so much. And let me just say, we've got 40 days left until this election. It's a very close race, and I promise you that I'm doing everything I possibly can. We're leaving it all in the field. We're working hard every single day, but we can't do it without your help. And I'm hoping that the people are listening in tonight. That they'll try to help us. If you'd like to volunteer on the campaign, right now on your phone you can press 1, and then we'll follow up with you and see how we can get you involved. So thank you very much. We need your help. With your help, we can send a loud and clear message to those politicians in Annapolis, and over the next 4 years, we're going to change Maryland for the better. So thank you very, very much.